Good evening. Happy Saturday. Hi, Sterling. My copy paste go. That's where it's not letting me paste something. Huh, never mind. How's it going? Good summertime. That's not what I wanted you. So you're getting ready for that Proco launch. All right. There's one of the copy paste in there. Conducting, not really, I don't have much of an experience, but I did pencils at half size. And then I can kind of see if there's additional detail I need in here. Doing good. Trying to get all my little things off the ground. So pencils are here. So basically did them half size, maybe to help me focus a little bit more on, less on the detail at that scale. That's what I was kind of thinking there. And then if I feel like there's something else I need in here, like this face, then I can do that. The pencil's a little bit here. Yeah, had worked on this in a bit, and so I printed this out and painted this, well, did an earlier version, and it was just kind of a mess. So you put the two panels here, and hadn't really worked on it in a while, and it was just like a terrible mess. And then been working on finishing up my my little course that I started at Ringling. That's kind of been part of the background of what I did in the concept drawing class. So this little guy right here, so I sat down and finished the other illustrations and course stuff for. Just have to get up on my site. This is the original one that I did. It's based off of that little set. And then these are just other shots. There's a 1-point perspective, 50mm lens shot. This is I call it the telephoto lens, but it's technically speaking more of a 2-point orthographic view. So all the horizontals are straight. And you don't see the tops of anything. So it's like kind of hyper zoomed in. And then this is the fisheye version. Hello, Jared. So finish that off. I need to get the videos processed and uploaded. But that's just been sitting in the queue for a long time. And so push that out. So that's what we got going on here. But that's been pretty quiet, with the see some family for the 4th. Any advice on what to draw when you don't know what to draw? Well, one of the things that I always like to do, or advise, and do, I guess, to a certain degree, well, it's two things. One is, like, if you're like a funk, the what we now call the artistic block, I guess. What I think is always a good idea is just drawing things that you like things that inspire you. So that could be an image you find interesting that you found somewhere, or you took yourself, especially would be optimal. Or, copying something that you like. So you saw artwork you really like, and as kind of a starting point for yourself. I think, yeah, just keeping a sketchbook, going outside, sitting down, and turning and drawing something. Yeah, it could be a people, a person, a place, an event, an object, location. Those are always kind good places to start if you're like feeling a bit of a funk. If you make it too elaborate, then that's where it kind of gets in your way. But if you kind of keep it simple, then you're to get going. And one of the things that I've found, generally speaking, to be true is that the work fuels itself. So once you start doing something, then that makes more things possible. This author I rather like, Annie Dillard, she has the whole thing on give it all now, where the idea behind it is like if you try to hold back your ideas or the things you want to do because you've made them too precious, then you kind of get stuck on them and you don't move forward. And so if you just put forward whatever you've got out there, then that thing will feed the next thing. You don't know what that'll be, but if you don't have a lot of experience, it's it can be scary just to kind of do that thing because you invest a lot in it. Whereas if you just go out and you start making, what you find is that you start running into that thing of not having enough time to do all the things that you actually really want to accomplish. And that's a good spot to be in because you have to be more selective about what you actually do. Did I ever update my course? Well, I am going to. So I was saying here a minute ago, this is the last in this particular series, and then I think debating. I think we do figure drawing. So basically, this idea here with this one, there's a separate course for this. It's the isometric diorama. So you use isometric perspective to create a similar kind of space like this, where you have a courtyard and some buildings, and have a whole thing on how to do that. But basically, you take this and then you sketch it from different points of view. And I've added this part into the course, so up to this part right here. This is the 2-point version. That is, you kind of set yourself in the scene in here, and this becomes your kind of space you're looking in, and you can set up what I call an isometric camera, and you can kind of look where you're at. So if I were to look at this building, this shot right here, there's this F building, there's part of this G over here, and this H over here, and I kind of point the camera at something. So in this case, I was pointing at the corner of the building here, and point at that, and then I can say, okay, what's to the left, what's to the right, what's above my line of sight, what's below, and I can do a reasonable sketch with that process. And I did this a long time ago back when I was at Ringling, and kept meaning to finish it off, so I took a couple weeks over the last week or so and finish it off. And so here's a fisheye version, and yeah, I mean that'll come eventually too. But yeah, if you're not sure about like drawing scenes and stuff like this, the idea behind this is learning that initial phase of cinematic drawing where you're being selective about your lenses. So these two, for example, are 50mm lenses. So if you're interested in like comics or storyboarding, like being able to identify the difference between the different types of lenses is really important as part of your development, and that along with shot types and angles and that sort of thing. These are, so basically 50mm is like more of your standard perspective where you're at a reasonable distance, things aren't very distorted, the verticals are more or less straight up and down. And then there's your fisheye lens or your wide angle lens, This is Bristol board. That's pretty. It's pretty. Got a nice tooth on it. And I do all these with a brush pen, so I didn't use anything other than this to do the final renderings, and that's kind of what I cover in that course as well as using that tool. Um, my students who did these, where you can see the student examples on my site, theirs are about 1/4 the size of this. So I realized in doing my own that it takes some time, and so to make it reasonably fit within a semester, I had them do theirs much smaller. But so there's that fisheye lens, and then the fourth major type is the telephoto lens. And so that's where you kind of zoomed in with what they call a long lens. So, like those super long telephoto zoom lenses. And this is like an extreme version of that, where you can get some kind of defocused areas in here. So this is the foreground area right here. So you're kind of looking at this spot right here, but you'd have to be like way, 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 way down, far, far away to kind of get this view. So that's kind of what that final course is there. And the other ones are all, also perspective based, but there's also, No-10 and design thinking built in there. Yeah, so once I get that up, though, I want to start the figure drawing one. I've got stuff that I did at Ringling that I can use, but I don't remember how good it is. Sometimes I was in a really big hurry to get stuff up on the site. Though I did find out after I left that there was a professor there, and he basically stole all of my videos off of the Google Drive where I was, keeping them, and he would just show them in class. Like, he didn't even teach himself. He would just show my videos and tell the students to do that. So I guess that maybe he's gotten the instruction to more or less do what I was doing before I left. Lock it. Well, I would say have specific things you want to work in. So a friend of mine who was in here earlier, and he has that to some degree. He's a very accomplished illustrator, extremely respected in his field, and he'd definitely be a better one for that, because I, at least as far as I know, I don't have ADHD, but I'm not diagnosed. But I don't remember the last time I saw any kind of some kind of if it had some kind of evaluation related to that. But but yeah, so my thing I would say is know your limits, and I don't know your particular circumstances, obviously, but whatever your limits are, be aware of them and plan accordingly. So if you're easily distracted and you can only focus on one thing for so long, like for me, generally speaking, I can only stick to a specific thing and actually maintain quality and focus for about 6 hours, where I have really strong clarity. I could sometimes go longer than that, but that's the longest I can do. So I usually have my days scheduled out where I've got different things I'm working on. So I haven't been on much in the morning lately, because I've been working on learning some Blender stuff. And when in contrast to other kinds of art media that I use, it's just much more technically challenging, and so it takes a lot out of me. And then it also my eraser. It also kind of requires a certain kind of focus. So I have a hard time conversing while I'm working on stuff within it. So I just haven't been online, but I've been up in the morning working on that, specifically working on texture material nodes. And it's definitely, it's a whole other, his head should go up more like this. I'm trying to have him look up, but it just feels awkward. But I would have a schedule of things where what your limits are, and if you need to get up and take a break, or walk around, or switch to a different thing, have 2 or 3 things that you're working on. But I'm sure there's probably better advice from people who have to deal with that who can kind of talk through strategies on ways of working around it. Because it's like a lot of people are diagnosed with it lately. Maybe they should have been before, but it seems like it's just a matter of kind of figuring out what the different focus on or do, and what can occupy your attention so that you can be more successful. So that would be my big thing, would just be different things to focus on so that you can, but all of them should move you toward where you want to go. So like if you're doing, figure drawing, for example, maybe you're spending a certain amount of time studying from reference and a certain amount of times, drawing from imagination, or a certain amount of time studying from artists you like. Let me do that. And that way, but you've also got a schedule where you're like, well, I know I'm going to be doing this from this time to this time, and maybe training yourself to kind of keep to that schedule, so that maybe you can push past whatever limits you feel like you have or do have, whatever the case may be. But we've all got things like I get distracted, or summer gets to be really quiet for me because I don't live in a city where I really know very many people, and I don't have classes to go to. Maybe I should do summer classes, but having like a really great schedule helps me out. So like I have a dog and get out for RWALK at specific times every single day, and I've got my projects I'm working on. So I would figure out what that is. Like if there's a few different things that you're trying to figure out, I would definitely make a list of those things and say, okay, and I think another thing that helps people focus is having specific things you're trying to accomplish. So rather than it being, I'm going to get better at X, Y, or Z, it's I'm going to spend 2 hours drawing. I'm not going to let anything else, distract me, get in my way. So from this time to this time, I'm going to be drawing, and I'm going to be focusing on structure or rendering or likeness or whatever. But I bet there's a lot of people that have put out, really, better strategies than that for you to reference. So that's what I would say for something like ADHD. If you're having a hard time focusing. Generally speaking, though, like when artists, it doesn't matter what it is, once they kind of find their thing, they'll chew pretty deep on that stuff. So once you kind of figure out what it is you're really about, ADHD can really help you lock in to that thing. I do actually. I set up on my, so I've been working on my teaching site a bunch the last bit, including updating that course, reworking the front end visuals and some of the back end stuff. They updated the software that I use for my website that I built out, and so I was going through and kind of revamping a lot of stuff so it'll work with the way the software works now. Because not my favorite things. You talk about wanting to be distracted away from something is me working on web design stuff. But I added a thing in there where people can schedule critiques or office hours on Zoom. I also tweet stuff that I have on the site, or just in general. There's a Discord, and I've thought about adding, because I can add in, like, put in a special membership level where that will allow people to get access to specific areas in a Discord, like a specific membership type, if they're part of a specific membership. So I haven't added that in yet, just because there's not that many people there. But the Discord itself is, I've added in a bunch of stuff for like former students too, so like they have access to kind of former university student channels. But I set a schedule on there, but I'm not really attached to it. So if people want to meet at other times, just let me know, and I can turn that on or activate that, just because I don't know what times people are into, but it'll be over kind of Zoom, and I can work at my desk. Actually, I've also upgraded my desk a bit. I've got a long, well, it's really hard. You probably wouldn't notice any difference to yourself, but I've got a better lighting setup going on here, and I've kind of cleared off a lot of the stuff that was kind of at the top of the table that I always felt like was kind of cramping me a little bit. It's a big table too, so it's I shouldn't be complaining about the space, but just a ton more room up here. I got the camera up a lot higher as a result, and it's above me if you're on the YouTube side, but or Twitch or whatever. So been wanting to come online, just partially because I took the time to do that. Bought some additional hookups and things. Yeah, but that's actually very typical. Most comics are done at this size. 11 by 17 for American sizes. A3 it's a little bit smaller. It's pretty typical, I guess, for European. Manga is drawn a lot smaller, but I think still larger than the final formats. So yeah, and then I'm kind of doing here is I'm focusing in on penciling in some of the detail areas. And I'm not a professional comics person. This is something I'm relatively new to as well. Yeah, so they're typically done 11 by 17. And there's standard proportions like these that I'm using here, where there's a certain amount of space left for a trim and a bleed. And so basically anything that's outside of this area here, you don't want it to be too important, because it can kind of shift in the printer's process of actually getting it put into cut and put into a book. So yeah, but I think I've gotten far enough with the Blender thing that I might kind of start doing the morning studies online again. Maybe build some sets based around this this comic project. All right, that's fine. That could be a little wider. All right, what else did we want to touch up here? So we got the gloves. There, because I mostly wanted, again, when I was working on this, like I inked this guy, penciled this guy a little bit, but I'll have a good one. Yeah, again, let me know if those the times they set for the office hours work or don't. And I don't mind, especially right now in the summertime, throwing in something different times. So I did do like an online coaching class with a group of students once upon a time, but I haven't done that in a very, very long time. I like doing it. It was just there's a bunch of different people, mostly former Hong Kong students that I had. How do you feel about his teeth? Get some. That feels better. Somebody over there. Overloaded. I don't see any problems now. Seems okay. CPU, I'm seeing many drop frames. Turn down video or using a faster encoding preset, huh? Let's see how that looks over on YouTube, just a curiosity. So I can move some stuff around, so don't think it should change that much, but audio's off. Seems like it's okay. Leave it up over there. Is the YouTube side okay? I see there's at least, one, maybe two other people over there. So let's put that, reassert that midline. Just yelling at me about encoding, so I'm not sure if there's actually a problem or if it's okay. So do let me know if there's anyone over on the YouTube side or elsewhere. Twitch, Kick. Just so I know, yeah, in case there's some kind of issue I should be aware of. So I feel like it's okay. Could see some drop frames there now. Good evening. So that's probably all going to drop the value there. All right, I think we're ready for some ink. Start with the easy stuff. Let's see. Don't need another version of this song. A different sound than I anticipated. I'll stick with that. Alright, I don't think this album is for me. Go with that instead. It's not great graphic design, I'll tell you that though. Good evening. Yeah, so I think, yeah, I'm feeling better about where this one's going. So intense inking for me, and I'm trying to put this really light touch with this brush. Hmm. Its teeth. All right. Got to switch up the moveset. To be side. Just swapping out the audio there. Good. Some bush. Let's see. Let's see, where's that page? I messed up, so I can make sure I don't. Yeah, that's what we did last time. All right. Good evening. How are we doing? Hello there. Fake Twitch person. I need to get rid of that real quick. Got ourselves a Twitch bot. Let's see, where are you? All better. Oh, so I gotta delete it up here too. Looks like it. Or maybe over here. There we go. All cleaned up. Let's see. Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. This is you. Let's see. Good evening. Go. Anyone hear my dog sleeping? Don't want to talk too loud. He's over there dreaming. Having a good dream. It's the only time I ever really hear him bark at all. He's having a good dream. If you listen real carefully, you might hear my dog. He's just doing some quiet, dreamy woofs. Whole body shakes when he does them too. It's kind of funny. Having a good dream about something. I always ask him what he dreams about, but he never ever shares for some reason. Or maybe I lack the vocabulary. Hard to say. Good evening. Happy Saturday. Hello. How are we doing out there on this Saturday? Good evening. Happy Saturday. Hmm. Ah, that's what's going on here. Could use some whiteout on this, I guess. Oh well. Let's see. Up and over. people popping in and out. 14, huh? Everyone's having a good Saturday. Figure it's time I come back to streaming. It's been a bit. I've got kind of a renewed setup up here and work through some of the things I've been trying to get through so I could have the headspace for it. So here I am. Don't know how much longer, probably another 10 minutes, my dog's going to be asking for his evening event soon. He's already kind of gotten up to indicate that he is aware of the time. Get very excited about our frozen broccoli before we go to bed. Very exciting stuff, I'll tell you what. He gets excited about it anyway. And I figure with Neil going back into the ocean, it's probably safe to come out again. Good evening. What are we doing? 5 more minutes. All right, Bosch. 5 minutes. Yeah, if you're just joining in, my dog is becoming aware that it's almost his special time of night. Gets put out in the back for a bit and gets some frozen vegetable tossed out there for him to crunch on for a minute. It's part of our regular schedule, so it may not be missed. You know, if you have pets, you'll be well aware of that fact. So we have here. So, yeah, I think we're going to call it there. Appreciate everybody that popped in. And we'll talk to you all later, probably in the morning. I'll start trying to get up. Well, I'll be getting up early, but get up early and do some stuff. So, appreciate that, and we'll talk to you all later.